I wanted to welcome you all for joining us for the Conair virtual tour, Solving the Multi-Channel Challenge. My name is Liz Dempsey, and I'll be your moderator and also making sure that we finish up on time. We'd love to hear from you during today's presentation. So if you have any questions for our speakers, please type them in the Q&A box on the right-hand side. We'll be running the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Of course, if we don't get to your questions during today's presentation, we'll be sure to follow up with you afterwards. You'll have access to an on-demand recording and the slides, so you don't need to take any notes. So, without further ado, I'd like to kick things off by welcoming Dan Keller and Chris Castaldi. Dan?
Thanks, Liz, and welcome to all for the virtual tour of Conair's Glendale, Arizona Distribution Center. Chris and I were privileged to have led a joint team effort with Conair to design the material handling systems and processes, which you will learn more about today. I'm with Lucas Systems. Lucas is a warehouse execution solution. Our systems optimize processes on the warehouse floor. I've been with Lucas for 20 years and serving the wholesale distribution industry in various roles for the last 35 years. Chris?
Good afternoon. It's Chris Castaldi. I'm the Vice President of Sales here at DMW&H. And like to share with you a little stories about what you may have seen or hopefully have seen a video story on this. This will sort of give you a little more feelings about the video story that was done and sent out in the present. So it'll share most of that information and give you a chance to ask questions about that video that was sent out in the original things. If you haven't seen it, take a look at it after, and we'll try to explain a little more of what's going on in this operation. So to tell you who Conair is, Conair is a multi-billion-dollar private company that has multiple lines of products, from the Conair hairdryer, which many people know, but includes the Cuisinart kitchen supply, the Scunci hair products, Travel Smart, different brands that sit under that group. And in the time, they were able to combine what were multiple distribution centers into one single or a pair of distribution centers in there and do in-house distribution, ultimately distributing to retailers' distribution centers, direct-to-store fulfillment, and also direct-to-consumer fulfillment, and ultimately getting a multi-channel operation.
I'm going to start things off with a quick poll question. The answers are right on the right-hand side in multiple choice. Answer all that apply. What are the main customer channels that you serve from your DC? I'm going to give you guys about 20 seconds to answer.
All right. So it looks like our results are in, and interesting, direct-to-consumer is leading the bunch, and what's interesting is in today's environment, that seems to be where everybody's growth is and the situation that is most happen. Tied in there also is store replenishment. So those combinations are key in the operations. So what we want to try to do is in this slide, and what we're talking about is sort of define what the meaning of multi-channel distribution is. And traditionally in the past, many distribution networks had a direct-to-consumer DC. They had a wholesale possibly DC, and they may have had another DC that did store replenishment, and inventory was split across those, especially when it came to the wholesale and direct to consumer, that inventory is traditionally split apart, and that had its shortcomings. What we're looking at now in more is a single distribution center that shared multi-channel distribution. In other words, traditional business to business, so a manufacturer will ship to retail distribution centers who ultimately ship to their retail stores. A direct-to-consumer business, which might be selling direct, and that could also be a retail distribution center that ships direct to stores. And then the e-commerce direct drop ship is what we're talking about too, and seeing a rapid growth in, is that big box retailers are asking the suppliers to perform the e-commerce drop ship. And so with that inventory, there's advantages that bring this across multiple verticals. So we look at this operation, and if you've got to see the video, I'll try to explain a little of the flow that we see through this distribution center and these ultimate channels. On the upper side of the page would be your receiving area, and it'll come into the bulk storage, and ultimately that bulk storage, if it is an additional wholesaler, may flow straight out as a pallet in, pallet out a shipping door on the lower side. If it is received in bulk and then put into the full case modules, you'll see the flow from bulk into full case modules, where a full case will be thrown on, directed by the voice direct assistant that Dan will tell you more about. It'll flow from the full case modules down a single conveyor and directly to the shipping sorter, where a label, and we'll show you some video of it, will be put on, shipping it direct to UPS, FedEx as it's routed, or to an LTL pallet via the shipping sorter. So it's single touch in that full case. Ultimately, where there's many in-store replenishment, where it's piece picking or it's e-commerce and it's piece picking. It flows similarly from the bulk storage to the three-level pick module. The inventory is then picked via voice through that module, filled in, then travels from there to a value-added area. Value-added allows us to put in packing lists, dunnage, and other QAs that are required when you're doing a multi-pack order. And ultimately that travels from the value-added area to the shipping sorter, where a shipping label is put on and then routed to its outbound FedEx, UPS, or other shipping lanes. So that gives you an idea of the flow and them. What you're looking here is in the lower left, your value add stations. You'll see the boxes are open there. That allows them to do QAs and enter anything else. In the back upper right, you'll see the three-level pick modules and flows out of there. You can see on the across the upper right-hand part of the page, open cartons coming out of that module that'll head down to that value-added line. You'll see all those open cartons coming down that flow. And ultimate. Here we're looking at those full case ones that we talked about, and you'll note that the cases are sealed here. They're a single case going out to a single customer, and they're a single item, and they're thrown on, traveled, and the next stop is a shipping label, and ultimately down that lane. View further forward, you can note that the cases can travel through all the modules, all the levels, through various spirals up and down that allow you to do this type of sortation and shipping. Liz has got another question for you.
So the next question I have for you guys, again, answer on the right-hand side, is how many types of picking technology are you currently using? Click all that apply. We'll give you guys a few seconds, and we'll pull your answers.
Probably the traditionals are leading here, both with paper and labels and RF scanning. followed up by some of the other technologies, voice and light picking. So it's still, many people are still heavily using the traditional technologies in there. There are some that have in the group that are using automated storage and retrieval, with including goods to person, even some of the robots. So there's a diversity in that group, and so thank you for sharing that information.
Okay, this is Dan. So now we're going to talk a little bit about how the picking is accomplished at Conair. So Conair orders flow from their order management system into their WMS, which assures that adequate quantities of products are going to be available in each of their pick slots. The WMS creates picking units of work for 3 areas: eaches, picked to cartons on conveyor; cases, which are picked to conveyor; and then they have an area called their super fast area, which are very high velocity items, which are picked to cartons on carts. These units of work are passed from the WMS to the Shiraz warehouse control system, which plans all the work, and subsequently to the Lucas system, which pickers use to perform their picks. Next slide. Pickers are using a smartphone-style device along with a lightweight headset. These small, low-cost devices combine voice direction and confirmation with scanning and screen display, making it very easy for pickers, many of whom are new to the process, but of course familiar with using smartphones, to quickly become productive while maintaining a very high level of accuracy. Next slide. The Lucas and the DMW&H solution provides up-to-the-minute visibility of where the work will be. This enables Conair operations managers to direct pickers to log into zones where they are most needed. Next slide. As volume shifts from one zone to another, the picker can change zones with a simple voice command. Since the process is similar across all zones, pickers are able to work in any part of the DC as needed. Next slide. In the each pick modules, cartons are diverted into zones where picks are required. The picker in that zone has the option to tie together several cartons, creating something called the pick train. Jennifer, the voice of the Lucas systems, will direct the picker to locations where product is needed for any of the cartons in the train. The picker validates that they are picking from the correct slot by speaking a 3-digit check string, 3 of 5 digits, that are marked on the slot. They're then directed to pick the correct quantity and place it into the correct carton. Next slide. So here is a short video of the each pick process. Note the check digits on the slot, the number that you see on the lower right-hand side of the screen. Also, you'll see when a carton has no remaining picks in the zone, Jennifer will direct them to push the carton back onto the takeaway, where it will then be conveyed to the next zone where picks are needed. Let's run that. So you can see here she pulls a product. Okay, she's validated it. Now she's going to be directed to another pick. And then she's going to put them into the carton, and you'll see the carton then gets pushed out back onto the takeaway. Okay. Reserve case picks are made from rack locations onto pallets, and then are inducted onto the conveyor to be labeled at the print and apply and conveyed to the proper dock area for shipping. Next slide. Case picks are also made from case pick slots directly to the belt, as you can see in the picture on the left side. Finally, for the 30 to 50 highest moving items, called the super fast area, items are picked from floor pallet locations into cartons using the cart shown on the right. The cartons are then conveyed directly to the print and apply, skipping the rest of the conveyor and sorter. So this is a very efficient process. Okay, back to Chris.
So in the post-process, you'll see, as we looked at their value-add stations, where the additional process can be done to any of the piece pick items that need to have some value added. And typically, this is a QA test checking. In addition, it could be packing lists or dunnage, as you see on top, are all done and added in this prior to the shipping. What's interesting is the ability to take that high-speed print and apply system and read the existing manufacturer barcode and attach a shipping label direct to it. The mix pick would have a license plate that its process traveled the whole system, and ultimately that license plate is converted from a license plate order to a shipping label on it. And the little additional views of the value-added station. Next. Here we'll take a look a little further of the print and apply. You can see there are barcodes on all of the, they're either item barcodes or license plates that are on the cases that are converted in it. And I think we have a little video to show you how this is working. If you have to look closely to see how fast these hit and tap onto it, the package, you can see the far one, but they get it. If you see the label sticking up, these have a distance required off the trailing edge or the leading edge, depending on which side you're looking at, and off the bottom. The additional part will be folded up when it's put on the truck prior to just to meet the requirements. So that's, if you see the label sticking above, it's on shorter ones that additional will be folded over. So I think one of the key things that we'd like to talk about is what does the benefits of multi-channel distribution. And in a design like this, we've basically given two really key things, especially in a changing environment of business today. One, it's ultimate flexibility, that the expansion and changing can happen within the four walls to handle the different processes. If you need more full case, more case picking, there's plenty of flexibility in there. Versatility falls on the other side, that it is able to handle people with varying processes. The voice, once you're trained on the voice, you can work in any of the process areas. So if business is switching to more full cases and more e-commerce, you are able to move forward along that way. So I think somebody popped up a question about if you're able to, we'll try to go through some of these questions that came at me. So there's no requirement of scanning and piece picking in the process is required. So voice.
There is an option for it though. So
yeah, I'll let Dan answer more about this.
Yeah, the question that came up was, what benefits or negatives do you see with voice confirmation versus scan verify? So very good question. Voice verification is faster and requires less body motion and scanning, and so it's often utilized as a productivity enhancement tool. Also very easy for the user. But again, a lot of people have some concerns to make sure that A, you are reaching to the right place, and that specifically that the right product is in that slot. So the Lucas systems has the ability to mix voice verification with scan. So you can set the system to say, well, you know, for certain products, I might want to use scanning instead of voice, or for certain, or you might set up for the, let's say, every 10th pick, I'd make sure that I've got the right product by either scanning the barcode or reading back the last 3 or 4 digits of a UPC. So all of the capabilities and the validation points are there to make sure you're picking not only from the right location, but the right product. Some more of that question was, are operational noise an issue? And the answer to that is not really. The system is built with noise cancellation capabilities both at the headset and electronically in the algorithms. Accents was another question, and I'll say that the system adapts to the user's way of speaking. So as long as you're speaking English words for an English version, then you will be fine. It will adapt to your accents and dialects. You also have the ability to have multiple languages so that you can be listening and speaking in a different language as well. Okay. Now, there was, let's see, one more question up here. What product do you use for your scanning and voice picking? And again, it is the Lucas solution for that. The devices that they are using, Lucas supports many different types of devices. In this case, the smartphone device they are using has an inbuilt scanner in the head. So where they really are using scanning right now to build trains and to do some periodic validation, they don't really need to have a ring scanner, but they could also opt for that. Now, looks like another question for me. So during the unit picking, how do they ensure they are placing the item in the correct carton? The answer to that is each carton label, and we didn't show the labels on there, has a check digit on it. So the user, when they are told to put it into a carton, speaks back this, I think it's a 2-digit number that's on the carton, and that validates that they're putting it into the right one. They also have the option to scan that carton if they prefer. Right?
Another question that popped up was wanting to know a little bit more about what a warehouse control system is and what does it talk to. Chris, why don't you answer this one?
Sure. So at the facility, the software structure is set up in a 3-tier model with the warehouse management system at the top. Under a directly connection is the Shiraz warehouse control system. Shiraz acts as the distribution of all the messages collecting through the voice connection, the print and apply, all the conveyor controls all come through that level up, and so keeps the warehouse control system fairly, the warehouse management system fairly standardized. The warehouse control system ties in, and then each sub technology under there can be configured and in any way it needs to be. So it gives you a lot of flexibility that way.
Great. Another question that just came in was, during the unit pick-in, how do they ensure they are placing the item in the correct carton?
I think Dan just answered that.
Okay.
Dan did that one.
Yep.
Great. What kind of training time is required to get new pickers up and running and cross-train across the different picking areas?
Sure. So from a couple of different things. First of all, the current version of the system installed at Conair, a user gets on and it actually takes him about 4 minutes to go through a process of setting up his voice. Some of the newer versions that we're actually putting out, because the speech recognition technology we're using has gotten so good, there is actually no initial setup required. But again, there is a time, usually a couple of days, where the voice models adapt to the user. So that way they don't have to worry about how they speak. They can just talk and listen and on with their job. The training curve to get somebody up and understanding the dialogue itself, I believe Thomas Phillips, who's the manager of the facility, has told me he really gets a person up and running in less than half a day. In fact, it's a matter of hours. They have a trainer who will go out with a person. They will listen and speak with them and actually can see the commands right on the screen as the user has got his Bluetooth headset on. And then, within probably half a day, they're left on their own. Now, of course, they won't be up to full productivity at that point, but they will be, pretty much autonomous because it's pretty easy. Jennifer just, leads them through it, and if they have any questions, they can ask Jennifer for help. I think that's all the questions.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that's all the questions. And also, we finished on time. So thank you, Dan and Chris. I want to thank you all for attending today's presentation, the Conair Virtual Tour, Solving the Multi-Channel Challenge. We'll be sending a copy of the recording and the slides to anyone who joined us today. But if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to the emails on the screen. And thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.